Look at this brisket. It hit 203 internal, probe tender, rested 2 hours, but then it's completely dry. And that messed with me because 203 probe tender is supposed to be the answer. That's what every recipe, every video, every pitmaster tells you. Hit those numbers and your brisket is done and juicy. But this one was not. Now, look at this one. Same cut of meat, same smoker, same rub, juicy. I then weighed both of these before and after the cook and found that the dry one lost 42% of its starting weight, but the juicy brisket actually lost more moisture, about 43%, and came out way less dry. So if moisture loss isn't the only thing making your brisket dry, then what is? By the end of this video, I'll answer that question and reveal 3 reasons your brisket turns out dry, plus which one matters the most. And most importantly, what to do differently on your next cook. Oh, and there's also a juicy story about a canceled dinner party and a lie I told about pink eye, believe it or not. But we'll get to that. Let's start at the beginning. And the beginning for this particular disaster was a choice grade brisket from Costco. Which brings me to reason number 1 your brisket is dry. The grade. Now, most of you have heard this one. Prime is better than choice. Choice is better than select in terms of fat marbling, and that's generally true, but the reason this matters so much is a little bit more specific than most videos explain. So let me give you the version that's actually useful. A raw brisket is roughly 70% water, and most of all that moisture lives inside the muscle fibers. Now, what grade controls is how much intramuscular fat surrounds those fibers. Select has the leanest, around 2 to 4% intramuscular fat. Choice, which is what most people buy, runs around 4 to 10%. And Prime is the most marbled, from 8 to 13%. The reason fat matters so much in a brisket is because it renders during the cook and lubricates every single slice of brisket you put into your mouth. So even when the muscle fibers get a little bit dry, and they always get a little bit dry, the fat is there to compensate and cover for them. But the thing that most people don't realize is fat just masks dryness. It doesn't fix it. If you look carefully at the muscle fibers in a super fatty prime brisket, you'll see those fibers can be just as wrung out as a select grade brisket cooked wrong. The fat is just covering for them. But lean brisket, on the other hand, makes dryness almost impossible to hide, which is why reasons 2 and 3, your brisket is dry, which we'll get to in a second, are so much more important with lean brisket. Now, before we move on, one more thing you need to know about grade is USDA inspectors don't actually grade your brisket. They grade the animal by looking at the ribeye muscle between the 12th and the 13th rib. And that score gets stamped on the whole carcass, including the brisket, even if the brisket isn't as well marbled as the ribeye. So when you buy a prime brisket and it says prime on the label, that's all about the ribeye, not your brisket. In fact, I've opened plenty of prime brisket cryovac packages and found that the brisket was a lot leaner than I expected, closer to lower grade, lower fat marbling choice than prime. So you always want to do this to your brisket before you buy it. Flip it over and look at the flat directly through the packaging. The point usually has a lot of intramuscular marbling, but the flat is really what you want to look at because it's the leaner muscle. You want to see thin white striations of fat running between the muscles. And if it just looks like lean beef with no white streaks, that's exactly what it is. Regardless of what the sticker says, it's a lean brisket. All right, I'm gonna season this brisket with my Smoke Trails barbecue brisket rub very generously. It's got sumac in it, a dried berry from the Middle East with kind of a lemony tartness that darkens up the bark really well. That's the secret weapon in this rub. It also has salt, pepper, beef stock, grilled meat flavor, and a few other things. Really just makes a brisket taste like it should. My rub is available on Amazon and SmokeTrailsBarbecue.com, and the link is in the description. Better check on my boy. Alexa, play Baby Shark. Baby Shark, do 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 do. Baby Shark, do 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 do. All right. Okay, so the brisket is going on my Oklahoma Joe's offset smoker. I had a probe in it. I was checking the app, and what I was watching for the next 3 hours while I was inside with my sick kid at home was the meat temperature, not the pit temperature. And that is kind of where everything started to go wrong. My smoker should have been running at 250 degrees Fahrenheit like I normally cook my briskets. 250 for the first 5 hours, then I foil boat, then I bump my temps up to 300 to finish it. Basically a 10 to 12 hour cook in total. But this time it was running at 225 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe even a little bit lower, and I didn't catch it for the first 3 to 4 hours. And that's because I was inside with my sick son on the couch who had pink eye today, so we had to keep him home. We couldn't put him in daycare with pink eye. So I was going back and forth, checking on him, getting him juice, filming bits for this video, and honestly, I kind of just forgot about the smoker temperatures. Now, the reason that 25 to 30 degrees lower average temperature matters so much comes down to something called the stall. If you've ever cooked brisket before, you know what I'm talking about here. You'll get to around 150 to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and then your temperature just stops climbing. A scientist named Dr. Greg Blonder figured out exactly what causes this stall. He put a lump of pure beef fat in a thermostatically controlled smoker, no stall, and the temp climbed straight up. Interesting. Then he put a water-soaked sponge in with a probe, and it stalled exactly like a brisket. Because in reality, the stall is your brisket sweating. The moisture migrates to the surface and evaporates, and that evaporation cools the meat faster than the smoker can heat it. In order to overcome the stall, you need to increase the pit temperature so that the rate of evaporative cooling is slower than the rate that the temperature is rising in the brisket, which basically means a lower pit temperature is going to put you in the stall a lot longer, and sometimes indefinitely if the temperature is way too low. So my brisket, running at 225 degrees Fahrenheit-ish instead of 250, had a longer stall than it should have, and every extra hour in that stall is an extra hour of moisture evaporating off the surface. Moisture the brisket can never get back. And that is the damage a long low temp cook does, not all at once, just steadily for hours over time. And before I knew it, it was already 5:30 p.m. Guests were coming over at 7 p.m., not good, because I went outside and I saw that the actual brisket temperature was only 163 degrees Fahrenheit, still in the stall. So I texted my wife and I told her what was happening, and she said, well, maybe we should push dinner back an hour. I was more optimistic about it, so I just said, nah, I'll just bump up the temperatures a little bit, it'll be fine, we'll be on time. She said, are you sure? And I said, yes. I don't think she believed me based on my past history, I don't blame her. But I bumped up temperatures and hoped for the best. 6:15 p.m. rolled around, I saw the brisket was only at around 170 degrees Fahrenheit, long way to go. So I canceled dinner and I told them it was because of pink eye. Which was technically true, my kid did have pink eye, but obviously that wasn't the reason I canceled. After that, I put the brisket in my pellet grill at as low as it could go, around 175 degrees Fahrenheit, and left it overnight because I didn't really want to waste it. The next morning, I wrapped it in foil, pushed the pellet grill up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and I took it to 203 degrees Fahrenheit, probe tender, over the next 4 hours or so. And by probe tender, I mean the probe slid in easily, it was super tender, I could get my fingers underneath it and kind of get through the muscle fibers. Basically, it was done. Then I called it quits and I rested it for 2 hours on the counter. 2 hours later, I sliced into it, and this is what it looked like. You guys can form your own opinion. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that looks kind of dry. 42% of its starting weight was gone, which is on the high end of normal, as a well-run cook typically loses 30 to 40%, not as high as 42% normally. But cooking for almost 2 days, most of that time unwrapped, meant that the brisket was in the evaporative cooling stall zone a lot longer than my normal briskets. And that probably resulted in losing a lot more moisture. Alternatively, it could have been the case that the super long cook resulted in too much fat rendering out, so there was almost no fat to moisten up the slices. That is a theory that a lot of people have. Longer brisket cooks result in more fat loss, but it's something I'll have to test in another video. The thing that I do know for sure, though, is that when you cook your brisket at a very low temperature for a very long time, it turns out dry. So the key takeaway here is don't cook your briskets unwrapped or even wrapped for a very long time at a low temperature. I would keep it to 12 to 15 hour cooks max. I would start at 250-ish, then bump up temps to around 300 once you hit the stall to power through the stall. And then I would do a long hot hold, totally wrapped at that point in foil or butcher paper overnight for at least 12 to 18 hours. That's my normal method. So that makes sense, but here's where it stopped making sense. I had another brisket that I cooked the next day when I cooked my normal way, 12 hours, 250 degrees to start, ramped up temps to 300 degrees Fahrenheit to finish the brisket, pulled the brisket at 195 degrees Fahrenheit and held it for 18 hours at 150 in my holding oven, weighed it, and it had lost 43% of its starting weight, which was more than the dry brisket. And it was the juiciest brisket I've made in months, which made no sense. So it's very possible I just screwed up the numbers and got the weights wrong because I was at home with a sick kid. But if this is true, this suggests that the weight loss of the brisket is not necessarily correlated with the amount of juiciness it's gonna have. Something else is definitely going on, and it's coming from the last hour or so of the cook. This is that second brisket again, same starting weight, roughly 12-hour cook, same smoker, but I pulled this one at 195 internal, not 203 degrees internal. Then I wrapped it tight in foil with the juices from the foil boat and held it overnight at 150, just like I always do my briskets. And that one detail is super important. One I pulled at 195 degrees Fahrenheit, and the other one I pulled at 203 degrees Fahrenheit. That made all the difference. And here's why. From around 140 degrees Fahrenheit internal, the muscle fibers in your brisket start to contract and squeeze moisture out. Think of them like a self-squeezing sponge, tightening as the temperature climbs. At the same time, also from around 140 degrees Fahrenheit, the collagen starts converting into gelatin and the fat starts to render into liquid tallow, both of which add to the juiciness of a brisket. Now, those things are happening kind of against each other in the cook. You're losing water weight and moisture throughout the cook due to evaporation, but you're gaining rendered collagen and fat, which adds to juiciness to make up for the dryness caused by the lost H2O. But above around 200 degrees Fahrenheit internal, the muscle fibers start contracting really fast. Fast enough that they start outrunning what the gelatin and fat rendering can make up for in terms of the perception of juiciness. Think of it like wringing out a wet cloth. You twist it, the water leaves, and even though most of that water is still sitting in the bucket below, it's not in the cloth anymore. That's kind of what happens to the brisket muscle fibers when you push temps above 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And here's the part that trips everyone up. The probe feel test tells you whether the collagen has converted and the meat is tender, but it doesn't tell you whether the muscle fibers still have moisture in them. So you can have perfectly probed tender but completely wrung out and dry brisket, which is exactly what I had. So I went back to the data and looked at both sets of numbers side by side. And as you can see, the dry brisket lost 42% of its weight and was pushed to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. The juicy brisket lost more, around 43% of its weight, but was pulled at 195 degrees Fahrenheit and held overnight at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. The juicy brisket turned out less dry because we pulled it at a lower temperature of 195 degrees Fahrenheit, which denatured the muscle fibers less, and they retained more of their capacity to hold the remaining water that was left in the brisket. Whereas on the 203 degrees Fahrenheit dry brisket, we kind of destroyed those muscle fibers' capacity to hold water. We really denatured them at those higher temperatures, so it couldn't really absorb any remaining water that was remaining in the brisket overnight, and that's why it was really dry. So the data says it should be this way, and if we look at the juicy brisket, you can see that the data is right. Look at how juicy this brisket is. The knife goes in clean, moisture is clearly visible on the cross section of this slice. It's got moisture visibly dripping from it. I tasted it and it tasted juicier compared to the dry brisket. So here's how to use this information and not screw up your next brisket. Stop treating 203 degrees Fahrenheit plus as the finish line, because as you've seen with these brisket cooks, that number only works when it's followed by the right kind of hold, which is exactly what the best brisket restaurants do in Texas and most home cooks skip. Franklin Barbecue, for example, holds their briskets overnight. Goldie's Barbecue holds for hours after cooking them. The temperature gets you to the right neighborhood, but the hold is where the final tenderization and reabsorption of any remaining moisture actually happens. So in my case, this is my method to keep my briskets super juicy. I pull it 195 degrees Fahrenheit after around 12 hours, when the probe is sliding in with just a little bit of resistance left. It's still a little bit undercooked, but it's starting to get tender. Then I wrap it tight in foil with some of the juices from the foil boat. Don't dump them all, as you want that liquid in there with the brisket, but dump some of it out so it's not swimming in it. Then 3 straight into the holding oven and hold overnight at 150 for 18 hours. Again, straight into the holding oven. That long temperature decline by putting it straight in the holding oven is an essential part of this method. At 150 degrees Fahrenheit, the collagen is still slowly converting. The muscle fibers relax and reabsorb water very gently over time. And if you do that, you'll wake up to a better brisket than you went to sleep with. Now, if overnight isn't an option and you still want to do it the same day, then lower your pit temp to around 200 degrees Fahrenheit and hold the internal temperature of the brisket once it hits around 195 to 196 degrees Fahrenheit. And do that until it probes super tender. It might take an extra 2 or 3 hours and you'll have to tack that onto your cook, maybe get up a little earlier to account for that. But if you do that, the brisket is going to turn out way juicier. It's basically a slower finish and you avoid going to those higher temperatures, but it's going to make your brisket way better. So why is your brisket dry? Grade gives you margin for error. More marbling means the fat can cover for the moisture that got squeezed out during the cook, but it covers the symptom, not the cause. Your cook duration controls how much moisture you lose during the stall. If you run too long at low temperatures, you're going to lose moisture that the brisket can't really afford to lose. So if you want insurance, get a fattier brisket. But fat isn't everything. You also need to avoid super long cooks at a low temperature because that can result in a lot of water loss through evaporation, and you still need that water. You're going to also lose a lot of fat through too much fat rendering over time, and that's no bueno. So keep your cooks to around 12 to 14 hours, start at 250 and then ramp up to 300 once you hit the stall. Finally, and most importantly, finishing temperature is where most people kind of screw up without realizing it, because you can really do everything else right and still wring that last bit of moisture out of an otherwise good brisket in the final hour of cooking it. So keep your temperatures below 195 degrees Fahrenheit and either do a long hold overnight, or if you want to cook on the same day, hold it at 195 somehow so it stops rising in temperature and just keep cooking it for another 2 to 3 hours until it gets tender. And in case you're wondering what happened to the dry brisket, no, I didn't just throw it out. I actually chopped it up and I sauced it heavily, put it on some buns, and I served it to my guests on another occasion, so I didn't waste anything. I told them my kids' pink eye had cleared up before they came for dinner. And it was actually really good. Chopped brisket is very forgiving. So if you've had a dry brisket before, I want the specifics. Let me know your time, your temperature, why you think it turned out dry. Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, happy smoking.